Have you ever been in a conversation where you're talking, but you can feel it? That hollow sensation that your words are hitting a wall. You're speaking, they're nodding, but nothing is actually happening. Here's the uncomfortable truth that most people never realize. If people aren't listening to you, the problem isn't them, it's you. And the solution is counterintuitive. Stop talking. Most of us believe that communication is about getting our point across, about being right, about winning the argument. We think that if we just explain ourselves one more time, if we just find the right words, if we just speak a little louder or a little clearer, finally, they'll understand. But what if I told you that this entire approach is fundamentally broken? What if the reason people aren't listening to you has nothing to do with your volume, your clarity, or even your ideas, and everything to do with your intention? If you are the kind of person who's tired of feeling unheard, who wants to transform the way you communicate and actually connect with people in a meaningful way, then make sure to subscribe to this channel, because what we're about to explore will challenge everything you thought you knew about conversation, listening, and what it actually means to be understood. Here's what most people are doing when they think they're having a conversation. They're waiting. They're waiting for their turn to speak. They're not listening to understand, they're listening to respond. Or worse, they're not listening at all. They're just rehearsing their next point, polishing their comeback, preparing their defense. Think about the last argument you had with someone close to you. Maybe your spouse, your parent, your friend. Were you actually trying to understand their position? Or were you immediately taking what they said, turning it into the stupidest possible version of their argument, what philosophers call a straw man, and then demolishing it so you could walk away feeling intellectually superior? That's not communication. That's a primate dominance hierarchy dispute. You're essentially two creatures with your hands around each other's throats, each trying to prove superiority. And here's the devastating reality. When you approach conversation this way, you guarantee that nobody will listen to you. Because why should they? You're not listening to them. So let's reframe this entirely. What if conversation isn't about being right? What if it's about becoming less wrong? Imagine you're talking to someone and they disagree with you. They tell you something you find contemptible, difficult, or just plain wrong. Your immediate instinct is to reject it, to defend your position, to prove them mistaken. But here's the radical alternative. What if they're telling you something you don't know? What if, hidden in their perspective, there's one piece of information, one insight, one angle you've never considered that could make you less stupid? Because here's the thing, if you talk to someone and they agree with everything you say, you learn nothing. You walk away knowing exactly what you knew before. Maybe you feel validated, maybe your ego is satisfied, but you're no smarter than you were 10 minutes ago. You've essentially had a conversation with yourself. But if that person is different from you, if they see the world through a different lens, if they pull different facts from reality than you do, even if 49 out of 50 things they say are wrong, that one thing, that single insight you didn't have before, makes the entire conversation valuable. That's the goal. Not to win, not to dominate, but to extract that one piece of truth that makes you slightly less blind to reality. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. If people aren't listening to you, it's because you failed to create the conditions for listening. And those conditions are very specific. First, you have to be congruent. You have to be integrated. Think about someone who says one thing, but their body language says another, whose words contradict their actions, who's all over the place. Can you trust anything that person says? Of course not. There's no continuity, no reliability. Before anyone will listen to you, you have to get yourself lined up. You have to beat the impurities out of your soul, so to speak. You have to want to tell the truth, not just your version of it. Second, you have to actually care about the other person. Not in some abstract, fake way. Really care. If you're full of bitterness, resentment, and revenge, If you secretly want the other person to walk away worse off than you, they'll sense it, and they'll shut down. Why would anyone open themselves up to someone who wishes them harm? The orientation has to be this: what I want from this conversation is for both of us to walk away better than we came in. That's it. Not, I want to be right. Not, I want to win. Not, I want to impress you. Just, I want us both to end up in a better place than we started. And here's the question you have to ask yourself. If you're not after that, what the hell are you after? What could possibly be better than both people walking away smarter, more equipped for the world, more capable of dealing with reality? If this way of thinking about communication is resonating with you, if you're starting to see conversations differently, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because we're going even deeper into what it actually takes to be heard and understood. And the answer might surprise you. Here's a practical test you can do right now to measure the quality of your listening. The next time you get into an argument with your partner, your friend, anyone, stop the discussion and institute this rule. Nobody can speak until they've first restated the other person's ideas and feelings accurately. And accurately means the other person has to agree with your restatement. Sounds simple, right? It's actually the most difficult thing you'll ever do. Because what you want to do is take their argument and make it weaker. You want to twist it into something easy to defeat. But instead, you have to do the opposite. You have to make their argument stronger than they made it. You have to understand their position so well that you could defend it better than they could. Why would you do this? Especially if you're dealing with someone you have to live with, someone who maybe can't express themselves well, but has something important to say. By strengthening their argument, by truly understanding their frame of reference, you create the possibility of actual communication. Not debate, not performance, communication. And here's what's extraordinary. If you actually listen to people this way, they will tell you the weirdest, most unexpected things incredibly fast. If a conversation is boring, it's because you're not really listening. Everyone is strange. Everyone has bizarre thoughts, unusual experiences, unique perspectives. If you were actually communicating with them, if they were telling you how weird they really are, it would be anything but dull. There's a profound idea buried in all of this. The exchange of truth is curative. It heals. It makes people psychologically healthier. Think about what happens in a good therapeutic session. The entire conversation is about expressing the truth of the situation as clearly as possible. That's it. Not about being right, not about diagnosing, not about fixing, just about truth. The therapist says, "Here's the impact you're having on me. This makes me angry. This makes me happy. This is interesting. This reminds me of something you said earlier that I don't understand." And the client gets to have an hour where someone actually tells them what they think, where someone actually listens, where someone is genuinely trying to understand rather than judge, fix, or dominate. This is what real relationships are. If you have a relationship where you can't exchange truth, where you can't really listen and be heard, what you have is not a relationship. You're a slave and they're a tyrant, or you're both slaves to something else. Your egos, your need to be right, your fear of being wrong. But a real relationship, whether it's therapeutic, romantic, familial, or friendship, is therapeutic by definition. If it's not making both people better, healthier, more capable of dealing with reality, then it's not actually a relationship. It's just two people using each other for something else. Here's why this matters so much. If people consistently aren't listening to you, you have a choice to make. You can keep talking, keep trying to force your way through, keep attempting to dominate the conversation. Or you can stop. Stop talking and start examining why your words aren't landing. Because here's what happens when you keep talking without being heard. You become resentful. You become bitter. You start to believe the world is against you, that people are stupid, that nobody understands. And that bitterness seeps into everything. It corrupts your interactions, your relationships, your entire orientation toward life. And conversely, when you're not really listening to others, when you're just waiting for your turn to speak, you miss everything. You miss the opportunity to learn, to grow, to become less stupid about reality. You guarantee that you'll keep running painfully into the same problems over and over again because you refuse to accept information that contradicts your current understanding. The person who won't listen is trapped in their own head, forever bumping into the walls of their limited perspective. And the person who won't stop talking when nobody's listening has lost touch with reality entirely. Here's something most people don't want to face. Before you can truly listen or be heard, you have to respect yourself. Not in some shallow self-esteem way. I mean, you have to recognize that you're dangerous, that you're capable of terrible things, that there's a monstrous element to your psyche that demands respect. Most people think they're good. They assume their intentions are pure, their actions justified. But you're not a good person unless you've made a serious, sustained effort to be good. By default, you're probably a moderately bad person. That's a long way from being absolutely horrible, but it's also a long way from being genuinely good. When you understand this, when you see the capacity for cruelty, manipulation, and domination within yourself, you gain something critical. Respect for the weight of your words and actions. You start to regard yourself as a loaded weapon. And that's exactly what you should be, especially in relationships where you have power. This self-awareness changes how you communicate. You become more careful, more intentional, more aware that every word you speak can either heal or harm. And that awareness makes people want to listen to you, because they sense that you're not speaking carelessly or selfishly. You're speaking with the full weight of responsibility. So what do you do if people aren't listening to you? Stop talking. Not forever, but long enough to ask yourself, why aren't they listening? Am I congruent? Am I integrated? Do I actually care about this person's well-being, or am I just trying to win? Am I listening to them, or am I just waiting to speak? And then start doing this. When someone talks to you, really listen. Listen with the goal of finding that one thing you don't know. Listen with the intention of making both of you better. Listen by asking questions, by restating their position until they agree you understand, by treating the conversation as an opportunity to become less wrong about reality. Do this consistently and something extraordinary happens. People start listening to you. Not because you got louder or more clever or more right, but because you created the conditions for genuine communication. Because you demonstrated that you value truth over ego, understanding over victory, growth over domination. And in a world where almost nobody actually listens, where everyone is shouting their opinions into the void, the person who stops talking and starts listening becomes magnetic. They become trustworthy. They become someone worth listening to. Because the paradox is this: the less you talk, the more people want to hear what you have to say. The more you listen, the more you're heard. The more you seek to understand, the more you're understood. And that's the truth about communication that nobody wants to accept, but everyone desperately needs to hear. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more insights like this. And don't forget to leave a like if this changed how you think about conversation and listening. Now I want you to watch the next video on screen, where we dive into how to actually implement these principles in your daily life and transform your relationships. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. I'll see you there.